afternoon, everyone. I don't know whether it's afternoon or evening. Is my mic on? It is on. Or can you hear me? It's low. So I don't think the volume controls are with me. I'll let the specific people doing that adjust it. But you can hear me, right? Yeah, so thank you very much for that intro. Sometimes you hear your own bio being mentioned or your intro and you're wondering, who's that? Who are they talking about? And that was me just now. So that's very interesting and thank you for it. Now, as you've heard, my name is George Kisaka. I head risk and compliance at Airtel Money, which is one of the divisions or organizations within Airtel Kenya. Now, I'm going to tackle a topic that is very interesting, cyber hygiene. I'm not a techie. Okay, my background is in IT, as has been given, but I have kind of pivoted my career into governance, risk, and compliance with a taste of project management and some forensics. So I don't know. This morning when I was coming in, I just looked at the dynamics or the demographics of the crowd that is here, and I saw there are many CISOs, probably 3/4 or a third of the room. The rest are IT digital people, and then there's 11% of people like me who say we are not in the server room, we are probably aiming for the boardroom. Not that CISOs are not aiming for the boardroom, but we are trying to get there before them. So just to know my audience, the actual audience, not the statistics on the slides. How many are in the digital space? You're a CISO, you're an IT security head, you're a chief digital officer, or in that space? Don't be shy, please. So that I don't go technical on guys who are more technical than me. I'd want to know. So how many are not in the IT cybersecurity space at all? You're in risk management. I saw, is it an athlete? Is in risk management at AIG. I think Mary is in risk management at Jubilee and more. So those are the people who are like me, people who want to discuss technical things using normal English. And that's why we're using words like hygiene today, or cyber hygiene. It's actually not a new word. It's something that has been there for the last, I think it was coined in 2003. 2003 to date is about 19, 20 years. But how many are hearing it for the first time today? Awesome. At least there's a few people in the crowd that are hearing the word cyber hygiene today. So what does hygiene, brushing your teeth, taking a bath, I want to believe everyone today interacted with water in a particular, and not drinking, as in like, you know what I mean. Interacted with water in some way in this morning. But what does that have to do with what we're discussing here today? Cyber security, those black screens with green writings and people hiding with a hoodie and everything, trying to hack your computers or your systems. What does that have to do with it? And that's what I want us to unpack in the next 10 or so minutes, and then I'll be out of here. So, as I said, I'm a risk professional, and that means wherever I go or whatever I do, I'm an evangelist of risk. I had a colleague in the industry also say or introduce themselves in the same way. And so I'll start by first of all defining what risk is, and it's the effect of uncertainty, basically, on our objectives. And here, today we're talking about cybersecurity risk, which is the effect of uncertainty in cyberspace on our objectives as an organization. So we're just juxtaposing this with personal hygiene and asking ourselves, what is it that we can learn from our personal hygiene routines that we can bring into our cyber routines and create a safe environment for our data, our systems, and our people? That is what we want to discuss today. Then we shall pivot it a bit onto data compliance, but I know there's quite a bit that's going to be given on data compliance by the Kenya Data Commissioner tomorrow, Immaculate Kasait, so I won't, again, go into her space that much. The topic also talked about the known unknowns. Those are simply risks that could materialize, but might not. where I spoke about the unknown unknowns, which could be risks that you actually have no idea, you have no clue that these things could materialize in your environment, but they would. So what can we learn from this metaphor, cyber hygiene, in our day-to-day lives? And just before I move on, just a definition of data compliance. I mean, we have all heard, most of us, about GDPR and the requirements of that. We know that in the various countries, in Kenya we have a Data Protection Act, 2019 I believe, and in many countries in Africa, between 2017 and 2021, there have been data protection laws that have been enacted. So we're looking at compliance to those laws, or compliance to those requirements of those laws, and how cyber hygiene can help us get us there. Now, one common thing about we compliance professionals is the fact that we like making sure that we are compliant in all ways and cannot be caught by the regulator. But I want us to take a step back and ask ourselves, is the reason why you're doing cyber compliance, or rather cyber security compliance, complying with the SOC 2, ISO 27001 or anything else, because you want to pass that audit, or because you know the underlying risks that you're actually protecting your organizations from? It's a common question we are asked. I mean, when lead implementers and ISO auditors land in your premises, what you want to do is show them that you actually know the policy, you know the requirements of that standard, and you actually can comply. But how many of you, or how many of us, actually comply with that standard? So I want us to look at it from the understanding of the risk behind it, rather than looking at cyber hygiene and data compliance from a point of view where you just want to tick a box that yes, the auditors came, we showed them, and we got the attestation, or we got the certification. And that's why I say here, non-compliance risk to me is a misnomer. You cannot have in your risk register something like non-compliance risk. What are you not complying with? A regulation by the Data Protection Commissioner, or the underlying risks that if you do not comply with that regulation will materialize, is what you're looking at. Now, talking about data compliance again, there's various standards, or there's various regulations that exist across the world on data compliance. I'll just mention one or two, and then probably look at what the African context looks like with regards to data compliance. There's GDPR, which we all know of. There's the HIPAA in the US, that is on health records and how they should be kept. There's PCI DSS for the payment card industry, the bankers, Visa, MasterCard, and the likes. And there's various data protection laws. Like I said, 52% of African countries have a local data protection law. So now those are what I want us to see. And 20 minutes is really, I'm trying to rush through this because 20 minutes is really not a sufficient time for us to really address this topic. So what are the key items you find in the data protection laws that are in the Kenya Data Protection Act, in GDPR, in most of the data protection regulations that I've said exist across the continent? The key tenets in those laws are that whenever we collect data from our subjects or from our customers, we should be clear and forthright with them on what we want to do with that data, why we are collecting it, where we are going to share it, if we are going to share it at all, and what kind of information we are going to share. We should collect only what we need to do our business. I think a previous speaker said a barber shop has no business collecting your, what was it? Your ID number or something like that, and things like those. We should give you the right to be forgotten. We should be able to delete your data when you come and ask or demand that we delete your data. But then again, that has its limits. I mean, we can't delete all the data about your past transactions, for instance, on mobile money, because then those are required, part of it is required to maintain the integrity of the system, to show that those transactions happened and they were recorded in a certain way. And we also need to have accountability of all this. So I slapped this slide here just to be able to talk about what we are looking at when you're talking about data compliance. But then I want to go back to the topic of cyber hygiene and ask, what are those things that cyber hygiene entails? You know, my son is 5. On Saturday, we were going somewhere, and I asked him to go, you know, I mean, when you wake up in the morning, go brush your teeth, get a shower or a bath, and then we'll be out of here. And he was done in a record 2 minutes. And of course, like you would expect, my wife did a very common check. I don't know if you went through this check when you were growing up. You know, remove the shirt and just scratch the back a bit. And that is evident enough that the hygiene protocols were not executed as expected by the auditor, my wife in this case, when they were looking at compliance. And that's how we behave also as CISOs. Sorry to mention a very key, Kafudia Ryoge is looking at me not with so good eyes. That's what we do when it comes to how we operate in our offices. We forget that just as important as personal hygiene is to you as a person, and that is why you insist that your children do all those things that they're supposed to do, brush your teeth properly and everything, because they're protecting themselves from diseases. You as an adult will do them and you'll execute them well, but then for your children, they do not know why, and that's why they're doing it the way they're doing it. Now, when it comes to the office, when you're supposed to execute some cyber hygiene protocols, that's exactly what we do. Our maturity goes back to that of a child. And we know that in the morning, Monday, I don't know, what does your calendar look like, Kafudia? Is it reviewing of logs, and then is it, what's the next thing? Probably checking what the firewall was able to pick out over the weekend or the previous night or everything. You know, there's some things that you've put in place that you're supposed to do, or your minimum baseline standards require you to do, but you do not do them on a daily basis. The reason I'm pointing at Kafudia a lot is because when I was making this presentation, I saw what he's coming to present tomorrow, and it's about behavioral science and how we know what we're supposed to do, but we just don't know what we're supposed to do. Or rather, we just don't do what we're supposed to do, which I've had him present in a previous presentation. And so I don't want to go into that area. I want to probably just lay the stage for him, and then he'll take us through that because he's the guru in that particular area. But what does cyber hygiene look like for your organization? And don't look at these slides and think, oh, we're supposed to be doing least privilege access, patching, backups, and everything. No. Cyber hygiene is a personal thing. Just like personal hygiene is personal, cyber hygiene is personal. So how do we implement a routine for our organizations? That is the question. My answer to you is, what organization is it? Is it a bank? Is it a telco? Is it a school, a university, or a learning institution like that? Is it a manufacturing organization? Are you dealing with people? Is it a government department or ministry like what Were was talking about, and the fact that you do not deal with you don't have customers, so to speak, or customers per se? That is what will determine your cyber hygiene protocols or whatever it is that you need to do to ensure that in the background you've protected your data, you've protected your systems, and you've protected your networks. If time would have allowed, I would have asked a few CISOs here to tell me what 3 or 4 things they do like religiously every other morning as part of their routines, just to give to you what industry looks like or what different people in industry do. Because I sit on the second line of defense, I sit behind a CISO and confirm or check on what she does. I just revealed that my CISO is a lady. Check on what they do. Because again, personal, data protection, I should not reveal the details of anybody I work with. But yeah, so what are the basic principles of cyber hygiene that will cut across all those industries or all those different business types? One is be clear on the goal, and that's what I've been insisting. Why are you implementing a cyber hygiene protocol for your organization? Is it to protect the data? Is it to protect your customers? Is it to protect your systems and your networks? Is it that you're a government department with, and again, like they said, with a lot of customer information, where the customer is you and I, and there's one or two rogue people that would want to manipulate or use that information for their own advantage. So then and only then, after you have decided or are clear on what your goal is, can you pick the tools that you will use for your cyber hygiene protocols. If patching is one of the big things, then you have probably one of those systems that will help you in your patching regime, ensuring that everything on the network is looked at and reviewed periodically and sorted in that manner. Once you have defined that, then you come up with a habit. You make a habit. Don't have a cyber hygiene routine that has 15 things. How many things do you do in the morning before you leave for work? Wash your face, brush your teeth. Okay, I hope shower, not just wash your face. Shower, brush your teeth. Well, breakfast is not part of hygiene, but I mean, there's one or two things that you do, then you leave for work. Those are the same things. Those are the same things I'm looking for your organization. What are those key things that you can be doing on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis and ensure that your organization is safe just by doing those things on a regular basis? And then, lastly, have a routine out of it. Now, like my 5-year-old son, there's a routine in the morning to brush teeth, but the actualization of that routine is what, for me, doesn't make sense, because it will be 1, 2, 3, and spit out, and it's the next thing that you're looking for. But does your routine actually focus on the issues that you have identified in bullet number 1 as your goal, and make sure that you execute it end to end? That will be the key question here in having a routine. Now, I know time is moving fast, so in the next slide, I'm going to present 1 or 2, or rather 4 or 5 different things that could be in your cyber routine. But these are not things for noting down and saying, oh, he said you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this. No. For you to come up with a cyber hygiene routine for your organization, you need to look at your organization and what is key or important to your organization. So for many, of course, you'll install a network firewall, but does it end there? What do you do about the firewall logs? What do you do about the rules on a periodic basis? Do you update those based on the new threats, new ideas, new things that are coming your way? Now that becomes your routine. How often? Antivirus and anti-malware. All computers leave IT with this software installed, but how often do you check back to see what your servers are reporting as the common things that are trying to come into your environment? And how often do you even check to see that your devices have up-to-date definitions for the antivirus? We've been working from home for 2 years now. Some of us are back to the office. Where were your laptops? What were they doing where they were? Are you sure that with all these mobile devices that are now in your ecosystem that go out there and come back to plug into your network, that you know them and you know that they're safe? It's probably something you want to put in your routine and have a periodic review of what your MDM solution requires you to do. And probably encrypt all your laptops so that if somebody was, someone's laptop was snatched outside here, that whoever goes with it probably has the hardware, but really nothing more than that, nothing more than the hardware. You're trying to protect customers' data, you're trying to protect people's data. Are you an organization where data is actually stored on people's laptops and therefore you're more safe or more secure by protecting that data, by encrypting that laptop? Or is your data all on the premise and people are just carrying what in my day in school we used to call dump terminals? I mean, they just access but do nothing else. Passwords, I can't even go, I mean, you can't say enough about passwords. I don't know if this is the slides I shared today or these are the slides I shared initially, but if they're the ones I shared today, then the last page has some of the key, 1 or 2 examples or cases in industry where cyber hygiene actually failed. Small things like a password was not changed or passwords are shared in a group or something small wasn't done and led to a big big breach in organizations. And the list goes on and on, but don't pick it as it is. Look at your organization, probably call in the experts to help you work at profiling your organization and determining what cyber hygiene will look like to you guys. Now there's 4 key drivers, 4 key things that I would want to mention that will make sure whatever routine you have come up with leads to success. 1, again, I can't say this enough. Focus on your organization, your context. Are you a data processor? Are you a data controller? What do you do with people's data? What do you do with regards to personal identifiable information of your customers? Then second, and no offense to the vendors of tools and, there's enough on the other side of this hall. Hygiene does not necessarily depend on the adoption of technology. It is not your toothbrush or the toothpaste. It is your stickability to the habit of brushing your teeth. Without naming names or brands, there's all manner of toothpastes and all manner of toothbrushes, but hygiene is about how you apply those to your environment. So it's not about standards or everything. It depends on the IT culture, IT enterprise, sincerity of your employees, and willingness for them to do what you expect of them, and the honesty that they'll come forth to you and tell you that we have actually done this as you had expected. That is what determines your success in this area. Like I said, it's behavior-based. Kavudia tomorrow will, I hope, give us quite a bit on that. I'm setting you up for, creating people's expectations. And lastly, it has to be continuous. Like, I'm sure next Saturday I'll still be telling my son, hey, no, that's not how you brush. Now we are at 50. You brush this side 50 times, then this side 50 times. So what's your routine for you? What's your routine for your organization? What is? Because when we go back to our organizations, we go back and become those children that don't know why we are doing this, and so we are doing it to tick a box, a compliance box. So cyber hygiene is not just for data compliance or for any other compliance, but you should be looking at the underlying risk. Look at it with a risk lens and ask yourself, what exactly am I doing this for? The next slide will have been on a few examples. I know many of you know of, many of you here in Kenya will have heard of probably a police officer, a police, what do they call them? The guys who had the station. An OCS who lost about, several millions. Is it thousands, hundreds of thousands? Just 6 hours. And you can look at, when you read that case, it just points at 1 or 2 things. One, having one PIN, and I believe many of you probably do that. Having one PIN for all your accounts. So this person is a customer of an organization I work for. Oh, it's still on the screen. It's probably a customer of an organization I work for, and my competitors is also a customer of like 3 banks, and the same PIN number is being used. I have 3 minutes to go, but I've finished my presentation. The same PIN number is used across all these items. So when our Mulot brothers, and for Kenyans, you know who those are, when there's a famous town somewhere in the Rift Valley where hackers reside. When they come across your PIN, they're able to clean you out for all your worth, because they swap your SIM. Now they have the SIM card that can be used for your mobile banking, so they'll clear your mobile money wallet, then they will get a mobile money loan for you and on your behalf, and thank you so much for that. And then they will go to your bank using internet banking, mobile banking, USSD, whatever it is, and use the same PIN to access the funds from there to your account, to your mobile money account, and then withdraw that and set you up. Why? Because of a very small thing. You just had one PIN across all your accounts. Now I'm looking at somebody, a CISO on my left, saying that but single sign-on is the next frontier, or is recommended. Well, don't do single sign-on with your PIN. That one PIN will give guys keys to your kingdom. That won't work. There's cases around. Let me use past cases that we know that it's a simple thing that led to the breach. Kenya, KRA, there was a breach 2017, 2018 thereabout. And he said somebody was able to get into the server room and plug in a pen drive, a flash disk, one of the servers, and then just step back and do everything else that they were able to do. Where were the protocols around accessing the data room, at the data center, or all that? Simple thing, something small. Who checked the logs of who accessed the data center yesterday, and what they were able to do? Very small things. Banks in Uganda were paralyzed for, that one was already mentioned in a previous slide. Interestingly, I look at the audience and I see people I have met in various conferences. We're discussing the very same things every other day, and I'm wondering, where is the problem? The technologies are the same, the solutions are the same, we discuss them, so we know each other. Why are we failing? I think it's on our behaviors, our practices, the inability of humans to act rationally. And it's the same reason that when COVID came, or when COVID struck, and this is my final point, we were told that to live or to die will depend on your hygiene or hygienic practices. A simple thing. Don't shake hands, wash your hands, sanitize, and everything. Well, every single day, were the numbers increasing or decreasing? They were actually increasing. So as much as hygiene is looked at as a simple thing, it's something that we need to follow through to the letter to have a chance with regard to our cybersecurity for our organizations. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.